Hey guys, what's up? We're going to be talking about a movie, very recent film, I Care a Lot. I believe that's the name of the film. I always say it differently, but I Care a Lot. This movie is really interesting because it's very divisive. You have critics who love it. I believe it was 85% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, and then you have audiences which hate it, which is 35%. It's not rare for critics to rate something higher than audiences. What I usually say of those type of films is they are better forms of artwork and not good forms of entertainment. There are some movies like that. There's some Coen brother films that are like that are just Caesar, I believe, was like that, where it's a fun piece of art. It's striving for something, but it's not a good form of entertainment. It's a little dull, drab, boring, just a little artsy, and that has happened. But this type of level of division is kind of rare. Let's talk about it. Who's right in this instance? And there should be a party that's more right than the others. And in my opinion, it's closer to the audience's side. I don't think it's as awful as the audiences say it is, like a 35% level Rotten Tomatoes movie, but it just isn't. I wouldn't say it's a really great film. And there are a few reasons for that. So for the things that are really good about it, the things that make it really strong, is one, the premise is very interesting. It's a solid premise. However, a premise does not usually equate to you having a strong Rotten Tomatoes score. But it's an interesting premise. You have this con that goes on, and it's weird because you never really get to see it like scaled the way that it does towards the end. But you have this con, and I think the reason why the premise is also works really well is it's actually kind of believable and scary. However, the rest of the film kind of gets more implausible. And I think that's where it kind of falls apart. Originally, it's actually a pretty scary premise of like a con that happens where you can manipulate people into... It's basically One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest mixed with a robbery. If you haven't seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, go see that film. It's one of Jack Nicholson's best. And it's, you know, what happens when the system kind of can take away your rights, you know, and there's a lot of instances where that can happen. And in this case, it's you're elderly, you can't take care of yourself, you know, and your family isn't nearby. That is kind of believable. However, the rest starts to go downhill. Even the way they do the con is just kind of unbelievable. You basically have like you're manipulating a judge into believing that you need to be a part of this guardianship. I'm sorry, but like maybe that would work for one. Maybe it would work for two, but the way that they're scaling it's just not believable that there wouldn't be a problem. Family doesn't ever get involved. Nobody ever asks. The judge never asks to see how it's going. Nothing ever happens. Like the odds that you would be able to... The odds that you could do the con in the beginning is yes. But the odds that it's been going on for some time, because, you know, this isn't their first guardianship that they've done, it's just unbelievable that it would be able to do it so easily, even if you had all the parties involved the way that they do. So that's the part that like seems unbelievable. But you know what? There's always an element of disbelief in films, and I think we could waive that. The real problem with the film is there's dark, and then there's like just bleak. They needed to have more breaks of just some sort of glee at all. Any type of whimsy, they just needed a little bit. It's just such a depressing film the whole way through. And not the way that, like, you know, Joker is a very depressing film with a purpose. This film doesn't really have that purpose because the purpose isn't to show that this could happen. The purpose is to just really let Rosamund Pike's performance shine and really make you hate a character. That's not a fun purpose. So I'm not saying movies can't be bleak, but this one just, you're focused so much on this really hateable character, and it doesn't go anywhere except for you hating it more. So there's that like level of bleakness that just doesn't stop and pisses you off, and it doesn't piss you off for a purpose. And it could be plausible, but if this was like a documentary or something on something that happens, and there's a lot of films like that really just supposed to piss you off for the sake of pissing you off so you could get up your butt and do something about it, great. They do that. That's great. Joker was a very bleak film that didn't really depress me because it was so rooted in its beauty and its art and its cinematography. This film wasn't rooted in cinematography or anything like that. It's just rooted in a really great performance of this terrible character, but not to the level of Joker. So you're really not getting to that level. So you're just there to hate a character. And like, there has to be an opposing force, and there really isn't. But okay. So to continue on the implausibility, they take one of them, and I get it, it's the one time it happens, but it's like a mob boss. And the reason I don't actually mind that was the case, if that would be kind of interesting. The reason this falls apart is you took the wrong person. Cool, that's kind of interesting. Kind of feels action filmy. But then like the way if it was a Russian mob boss, even a former one, that would have been way darker. She would have been bones in the bottom of the river within like 2 days. You steal a mob boss's mom, you're dead. You're so dead. They're not like they made the Russian mob boss people like suck. Like Peter Dinklage has these henchmen that suck. They can barely get out of the hospital. I'm sorry. A mob boss could like assassinate everybody. Like they could just take it out. They could have made the organization just disappear. If anybody knows how mob, like in the mafia work, which still exist, like that's not how that would go down. So that was just really weird. I think that was like the weakest part is like the way they did that was really awkward. Like the henchmen sucked. They didn't really get what the thing, and like the girl, Rosamund Pike's character Marla doesn't care, and it wasn't like tough. It wasn't like badass. She's just like stupid. You don't care that you stole the mafia's mom. Like if that were to happen in real life, you would give it back in a second and hope to God that they don't kill you, but they probably would anyways. Or maybe you tried to barter it. If it was going to be kind of interesting, it would have been like, okay, we accidentally stole the wrong person. How do we barter our way out of it? But they've done that film so many times. I feel like that's 3 Matthew Perry films. So it's just kind of So they kind of forced themselves into a trap. There shouldn't have been the mafia thing. It should have been about that woman getting herself out. It should have been that. It should have been like, they do this scary thing, Rosamund Pike sucks, and it should have been about the titular character being Jennifer finding a way out of this awful situation, and it should have been that rivalry, but it really wasn't. It was this weird, dumb, like, back and forth. Where it kind of goes off the deep end is like at the end, the guy's like, oh, you took my mom, but like, I really want to scale your con. What? Wait, what? That wouldn't happen, but okay, let's see. How would you scale a con? That's like the biggest scaled con I think in history is like the pyramid is like this pyramid scheme that happened, and it like ruined a lot of people's lives. That was the biggest deal, and it still got caught. Or you have something like a Theranos or something where like it's not really doing what it says it's going to do, and it's just a trick. They all fall apart. They don't get away with this stuff. They all fall apart in the end. How the heck is she going to become a 40 under 40 by scamming? You have that many people under your wing. Do you say the board? And like nobody, like they don't collect. They don't become like a collective unit that try to break free. Nobody says anything. Like you can't publicize a con. What is that? That doesn't make any sense. How do you publicize a con? How are you going to publicize a con and scale it and then become like the world's richest CEO? I get that it was supposed to be for purpose, but that's where it just like lost itself. It should have been way more grounded in Jennifer and Marla and her team. Should have pissed you off, and there should have been some redemption. I think the way that like my family, when we watched it, we were like, okay, Jennifer's going to kill somebody. Like, it's going to be her just, like, you're going to be frustrated for, like, 80% of the film, and that last 20% is going to feel so damn good when she just takes her revenge. But it wasn't that. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be the good guy wins, but, like, making the bad guy win has to have a purpose. And in the end, you don't actually know if she lost because her reputation doesn't, you don't know if her reputation gets revealed by somebody, but like that thing that happened at the end where he shoots her, like that kind of guy and any of the other people that were ever in that situation would have said something to a judge, to the police. They would have broken them out. I'm sorry, you capture my parents, you're gonna die. I don't know, like there's nobody that like got pushed over the edge, nobody stabbed anybody. Like that was like the worst thing that happened. Eventually after you scaled it, somebody shot you. That doesn't work. So it was very implausible. It didn't have purpose in its evil bleakness, which is really necessary. I think the thing that just doesn't fit in the place is if you're gonna hate a character, like the way you film it has to be different. Like you either have to find some redeeming qualities that make you empathetic, that makes a good film. I'm not saying you have to be like Thanos level empathy, but I'm like, or understanding, or like, you know, get it, or like a Killmonger, or any of those type of characters, villains. But you gotta like understand them. She's just evil for the sake of evil. And it's just doesn't really work. And I think what they wanted to do is, one, they wanted it to be engaged. They wanted it to be captivating because it felt a little believable, which, okay, the premise could have been, and it would have sucked. If it was just scaled to that one person or something like that, or just a couple people, that would have been really terrifying. And terrifying is good. Terrifying invokes a lot of great reaction. And then it should have been like, you have like Rosamund Pike's performance. The movie was basically just set up for some pretty decent performances. I didn't really like Peter Dinklage in this film. I don't know why. I don't know. It felt like a lot of those films, felt like The Boss or something like that. The Boss or whatever with Melissa McCarthy. It just felt like kind of awkward, kind of lame, just to me. I don't know. It's supposed to be a thriller, or some people say it's a dark comedy. I couldn't tell, and that's like a problem. You know, dark comedies are fine. Like Ryan Reynolds' Voices, or The Voices, or whatever it's called. That's a dark comedy, and I find that to be really enjoyable. This isn't enjoyable. So if it's a dark comedy, it failed in my opinion. If it's just a thriller, it's just, why? What's the point? So the thing that is good about it is the performances are relatively strong, and you get to have some heavy lifting from Rosamund Pike, which Rosamund Pike is like a top tier actress, and she's shown that in a few performances. So that's cool. You have like a top tier hitter who can carry a film, who carries the film into the abyss of you being pissed off. And I think the main issue is they thought pissing people off is like good thing. Let's see how far we can push it for you to hate a character. Like Harry Potter, Dolores Umbridge is an awful character. If you didn't hate Dolores Umbridge throughout Harry Potter films, psychologically there might be something wrong with you. But the movie's not about Dolores. She's just the villain, and it lets you play off of each other. And she does a great job. It's one of those things where you hate the character so much that you love the actor. I didn't love Rosamund Pike in this. I was just like, you really sold it. You did awesome. And I hate the movie. And I hate everything about you and this character and this thing. And they try to make it beautiful with some love scenes. And I'm like, am I supposed to feel empathetic for you in any way, shape, or form? No, you're a terrible person. It's kind of like how people are starting to feel uncomfortable about whether or not Cruella is going to be like too empathetic of this character who's literally just wants to mass murder dogs. Yeah, so it really just pisses you off. I do know some people that liked the film, but most of the people I know say good performances, interesting premise, poor execution, a little implausible, and just, you're just angry. And I don't think films that are supposed to anger you for the sake of no reason are necessary. So that's my take, guys. Again, nothing against actors or anything like that, and nothing even against like the director or anything like that. I think it was a really interesting attempt at something, and I think it had potential. It just wasn't executed anywhere near where it should have been in terms of making it good, and for those reasons that I mentioned. So kudos to Rosamund Pike. You're always a heavy hitter, so it's great, and I'm really glad you got to play this role because you love playing these type of characters, so I hope you had fun with it. Guys, let me know if you disagree with what I said. Art is subjective, as we always say, so please just disagree with me. If you guys have any movies, TV shows, in the past, new ones that you want me to cover, like let me know. I have a list that you guys have already made that I'm going through. On that note, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.